We got a great question in the BROJO forums today. The question was this: why is it that our brains seem to be wired to prefer things and to pursue things that aren't necessarily all that good for us? Things like potato chips and porn and pizza. Why is it that our brain pushes us to desire those things? And why does it reward us for those things when those things actually aren't benefiting us in any real way? In fact, they're probably causing us a lot of harm. And this is such a great question because it goes right to the heart of a central question. How is our brain designed and why? The first thing to understand is that if you look at our brain from an evolutionary perspective, there are three distinct areas of our brain that you can see that evolved over time. We often relate to these as the reptile brain, the mammal brain, and the human brain. And all three of these brains are operating in your head right now, all the time, all at the same time. And each of these brains is also designed to pursue different things and to reward you for different things, because its development, its evolution, was in a time when certain things were necessary to promote your survival. And you can see this very clearly just by looking at the world around you. What does a reptile care about? It cares about food, so it will pursue the most calories it can find. It will eat as much as possible. It will have sex as much as possible. It doesn't care about other things like relationships or raising children or future goals. It is very, very survival focused. That part of the brain is designed 100% to give it things that pursue immediate gratification. It wants that reward now. The mammal brain has different considerations. Its idea of survival involves working together with others collaboratively. If you're going to sleep for 8 hours a day, a third of your life, you'll be much better off if someone is watching over you. Friends and family and a tribe and people, you will stand a better chance of surviving if there are other people around. And your mammal brain knows this. So it pursues and rewards you for other things: connections, approval, love, feeling socially, in a place, in a tribe that feels meaningful to you, having friendships. And the things that hurt, conversely, rejection, disapproval, right? Breakups, heartache, loneliness, those are painful. Reptile doesn't care about any of those things. It has a completely different measurement of what means maximum survival. Your human brain is again different. Now, it's important to note here that for the most part, the human brain has a very fundamental different characteristic. It is relatively non-emotional. Now, this is something that I debate all the time with myself. Are there such things as human-only emotions? Emotions are primarily sensations that are generated by neurotransmitters, chemical constructs, the feeling of love, oxytocin and vasopressin, the feeling of stress, cortisol, and so on, the feeling of being approved of, serotonin. But it does appear that the human mind does have some emotions, perhaps, that we can't relate clearly to animal survival interests. One of the best emotional examples I can give is the emotion of awe, A-W-E, awe. When you watch a sunrise and you just, wow, what's that making me feel? Why do I have all of these emotions arising, this sense of astonishment and wonder? Can a dog look at a sunrise and feel the same things? To my knowledge, probably not, which means that there is something different in it that would definitely qualify as an emotional state in the human brain. But having said that, most of what we experience in the human brain can be described as non-emotional, and our reptile and mammal brains react to that. We feel good about ourselves. We have our own self-approval and our own self-esteem if we're doing things that are good for our future. We feel bad about ourselves and have negative, low self-esteem if we're doing useless things that are bad for our future. We've all experienced these types of interplays between our rational and emotional brains. And they're happening all the time, constantly changing weather. One of the more interesting human brain emotions, if we can call it that, is the feeling of fulfillment, the feeling of achievement and accomplishment of doing things that align with your goals and objectives for the future. When you win that award, there's the social reward of, wow, people think I'm awesome. That feels good. I feel serotonin. I feel approved of. But there's also the internal reward of, I'm proud of myself. I've really worked hard for this. I'm really happy to see this is a measurement, a validation of all of the hard work that I've put in, and I can really, really embrace that on an emotional level. When you step back and look at all three of these brains operating at the same time, and you look at what each of them is pursuing, you can see clearly why this question was asked. If you are looking at the concerns of the reptile brain, which is calories and sex and survival. That is all it cares about. It will be lazy when it can be lazy. It will eat when it can eat. It will pursue sex when it can pursue sex. It is all about those things. It cares about nothing else. And if you're paying attention to that brain and listening to that brain, it's going to be quite loud and it's going to be quite interfering with the rest of your life, because it's all about that instant gratification, that immediate gratification, whatever's right in front of you, taking advantage of that opportunity or avoiding that hard work or that risk or that going to the gym or whatever it is. Your mammal brain's got completely different considerations. It's going to pursue those relationships. It's going to avoid rejection. It's going to crave love and despise loneliness. And it's got all of these objectives. All paying attention to those brains is important. It is part of you. You are human. You are all three of these brains. But the human brain also needs to be listened to. And that is about your future goals. What is it that you want out of your life? What are your core values? What is meaningful and purposeful for you? What legacy do you want to leave behind? Why are you even here? We don't want to be born and then die like an animal and have no meaning to anyone, really, no legacy, nothing lasting. We're driven to have purpose. Why is that? And what is that purpose? Now, you might see behind me on the monitors, I've got a depiction of Maslow's hierarchy. And I think that this is very important to relate these three brains to. If you're not familiar with Maslow's hierarchy, at the bottom of the hierarchy is, well, first, the Maslow's hierarchy is a representation of your priorities, your survival priorities as a human. At the bottom is food, water, air, and so on. Towards the middle is things like love, connection, being approved of, being part of a tribe, feeling connected. And towards the top of the hierarchy is meaning, fulfillment, and purpose. And what I find fascinating about this depiction is that it aligns so closely with your reptile, your mammal, and your human brains, exactly in that order. Now, the thing to recognize here is that from an evolutionary perspective, your reptile brain has been around for about 320 million years of evolution. It has had a very long time to evolve its strength and its place in your head, in governing your actions, in promoting certain decisions, in generating certain emotions like lust and fear and anger and laziness. These are emotions. These are desires that your reptile brain is actively instilling in you. And then you've got your mammal brain, which is actively instilling other considerations in you, pursuing other goals in parallel with your reptile brain. And these are in the middle of the pyramid. And at the same time, your human mind is pushing you to pursue deeper meaning, purpose, longevity, significance in your life, self-fulfillment, self-esteem, all of these things that are outside of the considerations of pure survival and social connection. Here's the rub. The things at the bottom of the pyramid are going to be louder. They've been evolving for so much longer. 320 million years for the reptile brain, 250 million for the mammal brain, and modern human behavior is all of about 50,000 years old. It is a drop in the bucket compared to those legacy systems in our mind that are really, really pushing and promoting us. The rub is not only are those older systems more powerful in an experiential way, they push us. Fear, no matter how much you want to go talk to that cool person, the fear and the anxiety for anyone who's ever suffered from social anxiety is massive. It is overwhelming. The desire to be liked or to perhaps improve your company or your project or your social prospects or to share something meaningful to you, it can be really strong. But your fear of going on stage and getting rejected and booed off the stage will always be at least as strong as that until you directly confront it and learn your way through it. So you're going to feel this competition inside your head. And at the bottom of the pyramid, your reptile brain, the things that it is pursuing are things that you can get now. In the middle of the pyramid, relationships, love, connection, these are going to take some more work. There's less certainty around them. There's some risk associated with them, the possibility of rejection or denial, exclusion. And it's just going to take more time to achieve that reward, which means it's not an instant gratification situation. The things at the top of the pyramid, your life ambitions, your goals, your core values, being authentic, your identity, the legacy that you leave behind. These are things that may take a lifetime of investment to realize. And this is why it is very important to see your brain in action and to see those different parts working in parallel so that you can manage that, so that you can keep your eye on the ball. What do you want out of your life? Where do you want to go? What do you want to create? Who do you want to be? How do you want to live? If you stop asking those questions and stop paying attention to those objectives, your core values, your mission and purpose, your ideals in life, then the only thing you're going to hear on a day-to-day basis is going to be the concerns of your mammal and reptile brains, which are much more present and feel so much more immediate. I would strongly encourage you to reflect on this, to reflect on your day. Every day, how does your day go? How is it structured? What do you worry about? What do you give your attention to? Invest your time and money and energy in? And why? Is it actually getting you where you ultimately want to be? Or are you just spiraling around the drain waiting to get flushed by life? I've been in both places, and I have to say that it wasn't until I began to clearly identify the things that matter to me and to directly pursue them. It wasn't until that point that I began to see change. With that, I'll leave you to your own personal reflections on your own life and the lives of the people around you as well. I think you can learn a lot from investigating your own mind.